When Darren and I start talking about corn herbicides or soybean herbicides, it feels like it takes forever. If we're going to do a topic on the show, we have to really narrow up the focus. Well, with Milo or grain sorghum herbicides, we don't have to narrow up much. There are so few selections that farmers just don't have a lot of choice. But we want to talk about what those options are today. Let's start by saying this. For the pre-emerge products that we would normally recommend, like Outlook or Dual, you got to make sure that your Milo, your grain sorghum, is treated so you can have that herbicide tolerance. We've always talked about Concept, for example, as a treatment, but just make sure your seed is treated.
Well, Brand said there weren't many choices that you could use in Milo. The good thing is the choices you have are good ones. He mentioned Metolachlor or Dual. He mentioned Outlook. The other one that's pretty exciting is you could use Verdict, which is a combination of Outlook and Sharpen. Now, this time you can use a pretty strong rate of Verdict. In some crops, you can't use quite this much, but you can use 10 ounces of Verdict. That puts 2 ounces of Sharpen out there, which is great broadleaf weed control. Now, normally with these pre-emerge herbicides, we're mainly concerned about grass. That's why we talk about Outlook and Metolachlor. But if broadleaves are a concern, Verdict could be part of the mix for you as well.
These pre-emerge products are really good for grass, and then like Darren said, if you have Verdict out there with the Sharpen, that's broadleaves. I want to talk about grass, or start with grass post-emerge. You don't have a whole bunch of choices. In the past, it's been atrazine. Well, atrazine's not very good, and you can't and shouldn't use very much atrazine. Then the other thing is Facet. That's quinclorac, used to be called Paramount. It's a pretty good product, it just costs a fair amount of money. And the big thing here is if you spray grass post-emerge, you want to make sure that grass is small for 2 reasons. Number 1, grass really hurts the yield on Milo. Number 2, if you let the grass get very big, especially bigger than 2 or 3 inches tall, your control percentage is going to go down. So spray early if you're going to use Facet.
All right, with broadleaf weed control, there are quite a few different options. One that I don't think gets enough play is Husky. I talked to a number of guys who use Bucktrol and have used Bucktrol for years, or Bucktrol and atrazine. I like Husky because in addition to Bucktrol, or the active ingredient from Bucktrol, you've also got an HPPD killer in there as well. So you got 2 different modes of action. It's been a really nice product for us in cereals, like in wheat, for example. So it's one that you may consider if the weed spectrum fits you right in your Milo fields.
All right, so basically for broadleaf control, you've got Husky, but then you also have dicamba, there's atrazine, and there's Bucktrol. That's about it. So this whole conversation was pretty simple. You've got Outlook or Dual for grass. You can go pre-emerge with Sharpen. You can go post-emerge for grass with Facet, post-emerge for broadleaves. You've got Husky, dicamba, atrazine, and Bucktrol.
All right, so there aren't very many options here for weed control, but how about on the key weeds like kochia, water hemp, and Palmer pigweed?
All right, pretty simple. Make sure you're using Verdict down. It's that easy. Use Verdict down because that Sharpen in there is going to give you such better control than just the Outlook or Dual. You'll be really happy on water hemp, kochia, Palmer pigweed, all those broadleaf weeds that'll be much better. Then post-emerge, you can come with either dicamba plus atrazine, or you could use Husky.
And rather than using the Bucktrol, again, use the Husky or use the dicamba. That's going to be better options for you, especially on the pigweed species. Well, there are a lot of different weeds that are out there. Our Weed of the Week we haven't touched on yet. We'll show you what will stop it coming up next.